Our seats. Anna turned the tablet in her hands, from the screen of which number 35, a cryocapsule designed for 2 people at once, hovered in the air. The girl's face literally glowed with happiness. I managed to arrange for us to be placed together. Igor touched her forehead with his lips. We'll spend the whole journey together. We can even hold hands. Anna hugged him, looking into his eyes. Like in a fairy tale, a sleeping prince and princess. Is there such a thing? Igor smiled. If not, we will create it. Her eyes lit up from the fantasy that seized her. Imagine your house, a real house, and not this jungle of metal and glass, where we have a small hole. A world where the eyes do not rest on skyscrapers. A world where freedom and clouds reign in the sky, and shuttles do not flicker. A world where nature has not succumbed to the influence of civilization, and we will get it all. Don't be greedy. Igor couldn't help laughing. There will be several thousand more with us. We will have to share. There's plenty of room for everyone. And immediately Anna's face changed to a moody one. Do you really need to go to the moon again? And what can I do? Igor shrugged. The curriculum has changed. We decided to pay more attention to practice no matter how much I'm a pilot. Anna snuggled closer to him. Do we still have time? As much as you want. Liar, the girl whispered, clinging closer. Anna, like many people on Earth, dreamed of living in a real house. Peace brought prosperity to the planet, but it did not eliminate the problems that led to conflicts. Cities have transformed, become bigger, life in them is richer. People have coped with many problems, now they live longer and consume more. Although there were no longer any problems with garbage or food, there was not enough space. The government of the Earth, in an attempt to save the crumbs of the wild world, forbade settling on the remaining pockets of nature, which still continued to inexorably melt away, disappearing into the past and taking its inhabitants with them into oblivion. Those who could not adapt simply died out. The rest lived in nature reserves, where people were forbidden to enter. As a result, the cities acquired a bizarre appearance. Skyscrapers whose peaks were lost in the clouds sparkled during the day, casting bright rays of the sun. And at night a scattering of neon lights shone like a galaxy in the middle of the night. The tops of the skyscrapers collected moisture. Vertical farms turned into forests right in the cities. Every patch where a plant could be planted was immediately used for it. But still, glass and metal took over. Bizarre constructions of incredible geometric shapes. That's what was now visible in the rays of sunset or sunrise. Forests and mountains were all lost amid the sprawl of cities. Even the oceans fell under the onslaught of a rapidly developing civilization. As a result, people became cramped, their homes smaller, and everyone dreamed of their own space. A simple, empty piece of land that was not swallowed up by the voracious city. But there are simply no such people left on the whole planet. That's why people like Anna wanted to get on the Ark and go to Gliza 531. They longed for a real space that was not constrained by the confines of civilization, where you could leave home and see not the reflections of the panels of a skyscraper, but a clear, free horizon, a merging line between earth and sky, and there was no oppressive feeling of cramped walls. Humanity has traveled a long and exhausting path to the top of its civilization, only to realize the need for small joys of life, like clean raindrops or the feeling of freedom when you go out into the open field. Or it's just that people have never really understood what they really want, and they just move forward in the hope that something better is waiting for them there, in the distance. Igor looked at each other in disbelief with the same uncomprehending glances, unfamiliar faces around. Rather, he knew who it was. He even saw some of them at the academy. But it wasn't his group. It's strange, the lanky guy drawled, putting on an orange spacesuit. They told us about training, but they didn't mention that the groups would mix. Besides, we don't have a full one. The short-haired guy quickly counted over the heads of the cadets. Only 17 against 20. Maybe the others are sick, suggested the third. Maybe stop ranting and it's time to get down to business, the tall blonde man said, putting on a spacesuit with quick movements. Is this one of the training sessions, perhaps aimed at how we will interact in an unfamiliar team? And most importantly, weren't you taught that it is necessary to follow orders, not to reflect on them? Ashamed of the blonde, the cadets deftly began to put on their spacesuits. And really, Igor thought, why are they so soft? Even though it wasn't an ordinary mission to arrive on the moon in a transporter, was he supposed to discuss it? When the cadets were seated, the shuttle began to prepare for takeoff. The tractor took him to the rails towering above the ground, predatory looking into the sky. With the help of an electromagnetic pulse, the shuttle will accelerate and literally shoot into low Earth orbit. The method is reliable, as it has been used for almost half a century. "Get ready," flashed through each cadet's mind. "Launch." The shuttle slowly began to move, gaining speed by the second. Anna is still a smart girl. She managed to scratch out a capsule for 2. The shuttle was already traveling at half the required speed. They'll be there, even holding hands. The shuttle can no longer be stopped. The required speed has been reached. The rails slid smoothly into the sky. The shuttle began to shake slightly. "This is weird," the lanky guy's voice rang out. "This shouldn't be happening." Together, Igor's mind was touched when he imagined a picture of them lying in a capsule, with their arms around each other, and just opening their eyes upon arrival at Gliza 531. "It looks like a malfunction." The blonde was also worried. The shuttle soared into the sky at high speed, and everyone felt the overload when it suddenly lurched to the side. "Damn," Igor thought. "He's a pilot. He'll definitely be woken up more than once." His last thought was that they wouldn't be able to be together on the way to Gliza 531. A monstrous force squeezed the shuttle, which had already found itself in orbit. A bright flash, and then darkness and emptiness that fell on Igor. It's dark, which is why it's dark all around. Not just darkness, but a frightening gloom. It's cold and sticky, and it feels like my mind is constantly falling into an abyss. And all this is so clear that it doesn't look like a dream at all. Igor tried to open his eyes, but it didn't work out, so he decided to get up. But he couldn't feel his body. He screamed in the hope of attracting attention to himself, but realized with horror that he had no mouth. All that's left is a consciousness sinking deeper into darkness. What's wrong with me? What's happening? He was struggling with thought, thinking. That's all he had left. Where am I? There were no sensations, no pain, no cold. The only thing that confirmed his existence was the thoughts running around in his head in a disorderly swarm. So I'm alive. I'm not dead. It made me happy, but it didn't explain what was happening. Igor tried to reconstruct the latest events. He was in the shuttle with the others, and suddenly a picture from the past appeared so clearly and colorfully that it seemed to him as if he was sitting in an armchair again. Yes, next to him are the same cadets in the same orange jumpsuits. Anna. A name popped up from the depths of my memory. Anna. She got tickets for the Ark, going to Gliza 531. My brain was literally seething, inflamed by the memories that broke through the darkness of the light. The shuttle took off, found itself in orbit, and Igor's further consciousness painted in great detail. A flash that tore the shuttle in two. They were thrown into outer space, the spacesuit was damaged, and air was escaping from it. Igor felt someone grab his arm, and he looked back and saw the blonde man. His safety glass shattered into fragments, circling around him. The blonde man's eyes widened, his mouth twisted in a silent scream, and blood began to drip out of it. The cadet grabbed onto Igor with a death grip, which the latter, trying to shake him off, could not do. Orange jumpsuits flashed before my eyes. The cadets died one by one. Sensing the impending threat, Igor instinctively turned back, and at the last moment saw a shiny metal pin thrust into his stomach. Strangely, I didn't feel any pain at all. I just watched as the blood, once in space, turned into frozen balls of dark red color, and then darkness. So I died. Igor's consciousness turned cold from understanding the situation. But then, what is it all about? He had lost all sense of time. He could not explain to himself. He had already spent so much time in this void filled with darkness. And suddenly, the light suddenly dispersed the darkness, instantly. Igor sees people in white coats around him. The room is filled with a bluish glow. I'm still alive. One of them, an Asian in appearance, approached him. dark eyes intently examining Igor. "Save me!" the guy shouted, but he did not hear his own voice. The Asian man was clearly saying something, his lips were moving, and those standing next to him were nodding in agreement. But Igor did not hear the slightest sound. But the fact that he sees people and that they are nearby cheered him up. The people left, leaving him alone. Igor began to look around. What a strange place. Unlike the usual infirmary at the academy. He saw medical tables and spheres with bright saturated liquid standing on them, in which there was something incomprehensible, wrapped in wires. Gray, more like a walnut, only much larger. And these people walk from table to table, intently examining what is inside the spheres. Here's the door, here are more people, and the room is big and... Only now did Igor realize that he could see all this without turning his head. What's on his left, right, and behind him sees it all at the same time, remaining motionless in place. How so? His mind was agitated. How is this possible? A terrible thought flashed through his mind. He focused on the nearest sphere, and suddenly the image moved so close that he could easily make it out. The brain. It's a human brain. There are human brains in all areas. Really? A dank terror gripped him. The Asian man came up to him with a quick step, pointing his finger at Igor. And then I took a chair and sat down opposite him. "Can you hear me?" "Yes." Igor did not feel joy. The confusion that gripped him literally burned his mind from the inside. "Calm down," the man said in an imperious tone. "Igor." Hearing his own name, the guy froze, which brought him to his senses for a moment. "My name is Chan, Professor Chan, specializing in neuroprocesses and everything related to the brain and the creation of artificial intelligence." "What?" Igor did not understand, and then decided to clarify his frightening guess. "Am I the brain?" "Yes. That's all that's left of you." Professor Chan did not take his gaze off his dark eyes. "You are in a sphere. The areas responsible for the perception of the world. Speech, hearing, and vision are connected to sensors, so we can communicate with you. What happened? Am I dead?" Igor focused on Chan's face. The electronic eyes gave an incredibly clear image. "Unfortunately, yes. But I'm alive. I'm alive now," Igor stammered, his own voice sounding weak and disgusting to him. "All that's left of your body is your brain, and nothing else connects you to the world," Chan said with merciless callousness. "It's not true," Igor shouted. "My life, Your usual life is over." The professor was clearly not going to show mercy to the guy. "It can't be. It can't be." It flashed through Igor's mind. They can't just take him out of their lives. Parents, Anna, studying at the academy. He began hotly. All of this. "It's already in the past," Chan cut him off sharply again. "In the past for all of them. Your parents have come to terms with your death, and your academy friends have long since gone to different parts of space. Your friend Mikhail left to explore Cassiopeia, M34. Here Chan folded his hands into a lock, exhaled a little, and continued. "But Anna has been gone for a long time." "What do you mean, no?" Igor whispered. "I'm sorry. I misspelled the information. She's not on Earth. She went to Gliza 531, as planned." A lie. Igor did not believe a single word. How could she fly away without me? Moreover, the launch of the Ark is almost 2 years away. Chan put his palms on the table. "It's worth clarifying. It was 2 years old. The Chilkovsky has been in space for a year now, moving towards Gliza. Igor, more than 3 years have passed since the accident. That's why I'm explaining. You'll never be able to return to your normal life." 3 years? Igor refused to believe it. "Why did she leave?" "Because you died for her, as you did for everyone who knew you. After losing you, there was nothing to keep Anna on Earth. She finally broke with her past life and went to Gliza. And," Chan hesitantly added, "she's found a mate." "What?" "More precisely, it was done by a program that selected partners to create families, as part of the development of colonization. Igor didn't believe her. She couldn't do that. I understand your condition, but then, if you want, I will provide copies of the data from Tsiolkovsky so that he does not consider me a liar. Clone my body, Igor demanded dully, and I'll go after her. Oh, Chan drawled. That's the most ridiculous idea. Cloning a body is a very long task, as is trying to transplant a brain into it, given that it will have its own. And most importantly, you'll never catch up with her again. You're a pilot, and you perfectly understand how space flights work. The journey to Gliza 531 will take more than 100 years, and the Ark will leave a gate in its path so that people from Earth can reach it later. But imagine, when they have already established the colony and you show up, even in a new body, Anna will already be a wife, a mother, and you will destroy all this? Igor, your life is over. He's right. A sense of detachment has gripped him. And what would he live for then? Why did you save me? Chan hesitated a little with the answer. We acted this way because we were trying to save you. Perhaps you will consider our act wrong. Wrong. But the Academy leadership decided it was unforgivable to lose a good pilot who dreams of stars. The brain is the only thing left intact from your bodies, so we went for it. You are given a unique opportunity to fulfill your dream, and at the same time serve humanity by mastering the universe. But for now, you have to get used to your new. Chan hesitated, searching for the right words. Position. It's the easiest thing to die. It's much harder to find a new purpose to live. He stood up, indicating that the conversation was over. Do you want to leave the sensors to perceive the world around you? No, I want to be alone. Igor managed to notice how Chan gave a sign, and in the blink of an eye he found himself back in the saving emptiness and silence of darkness. Chan went out into the lobby, where Macro was waiting for him, looking at portraits of great scientists made in the old style. That is, painted in paint, as if in a museum. Noticing the scientist, he waved his hand in greeting, leaving the portrait of Lomonosov. Why did you create this gallery? What is it? He asked, approaching the professor. In recognition of their services to humanity, he replied dryly. And to fuel your own vanity in the hope of being in their shoes, Macro grinned, wearing his usual immaculate gray suit. How are things with us? I've heard very little. Scientists interpret cases with the results of experiments. Chan put his hands in the pockets of his lab coat and walked slowly through the lobby to the exit. Then it's easier. What is the result? Macro changed his polite tone to a hard one, standing in the way of the scientist. Chan replied with a sigh. Everything didn't go as planned. I know you were supposed to erase their memory or identity, whatever you were going to do there. And then it turned out that then their brains were not capable of anything. And in the end? As a result, 3 test subjects died. Chan's gaze became hostile and prickly towards the official. We already got 3 less. Your plan turned out to be very risky. We could have lost all of them. Nevertheless, you have enough material for your research. But something didn't go according to plan. Macro waved his hands in exasperation, spreading them apart. It happens in science, Chan shrugged indifferently. Macro gave the scientist a withering look, then stepped aside, giving him the opportunity to pass, following next to him. And yet, it is difficult for them to accept their current state. And it's perfectly understandable why, Macro muttered. One of the subjects had to be disconnected from the life support system, he was so prostrated. You cleverly disguised the word kill. The doors opened in front of them, letting them out onto the street. It was a fine, pleasant summer day, and the wind carried the scent of flowers and grass in the air. Why couldn't you just clone brains without a body? Pre-insert the desired program into them, and it wouldn't have worked. Chan returned to his favorite technique of interrupting the interlocutor in mid-sentence. As it turned out, the brain is not just an organ. For its development, it needs information that activates certain areas, triggering the thinking process and the neural networks in them. It's just that a cloned brain is a piece of fat and nothing more. It's not a liver or a heart that can be inserted. The brain needs to be developed, which is why they were needed. So will we have a result? Macro stopped, shielding his eyes from the bright sun. I guarantee it. Chan repeatedly returned to Igor. Gradually their conversations became long, and the scientist managed to convince him that his life was not over, that he could still realize his dreams. Yes, Anna became a part of another world, leaving Igor forever, and he simply accepted it. I also got to know the others, who like him, have become part of a new era of space exploration. That's what Chan said, constantly emphasizing their importance in this new era of exploration of the universe. Igor's closest neighbors were named Herman, the blonde guy, William, Alexander. Only they responded to the names. The rest gloomily remained silent or preferred to hang in oblivion. Chan didn't give up trying to rouse them either. Then the tests began, checking whether they were able to control the ships. To Igor, these tests were similar to those conducted with them at the academy. And then the day came when Chan announced in a solemn voice that the four of them would be transferred to the ships. Igor was looking forward to this. He no longer noticed how he got used to his new life. The main thing now in his existence is the stars. For them he entered the academy, and for them he will now explore space. Herman, William and Alexander got reconnaissance starships and directions towards the dark borders, the so-called borders where space known to humans ended. And you, Igor, get a very important mission. Chan did not exaggerate the meaning of these words at all. You will control the Ark. The Ark? The others murmured. He is going to the MS-4478 star system. The local star is similar to our sun, although the planet itself is larger in size. It was named Elbrus. The Ark is designed for 3,000 colonists, the first batch, so to speak. There was a lot more to Tsiolkovsky and Eden, William said. The Space Forces have decided to change their policy. Such arks are being built for a very long time. Besides, gates will be installed during the journey, which will allow the full-scale exploration of the planet to begin in the future. And you have to manage it, Igor. Don't let us down. And perhaps for the first time, everyone learned that the usually unflappable Chan is able to smile. Igor was looking forward to leaving the laboratory. The installation is complete, a melodious female voice rang out. The connection process has started. 2 adapts were busily fussing around the controls. The control center itself was a cabin with an extensive porthole, from which a stunning view of space, the moon, and the Earth was revealed. Igor's mind was seething with impatience. The sphere shook a couple of times, but thanks to the idea of filling it with a non-Newtonian liquid, Igor did not feel it. However, he did not feel anything. There are no nerve endings in his brain, so there is no understanding of pain or hunger. Igor knew about the existence of nanorobots, and now these hard workers, invisible to the eye, were conscientiously doing their job, protecting and supporting him. Igor was taught how to control them, and sometimes amused himself by making patterns out of them on the walls of the sphere. Attention to the processor, it's being checked. One of the adapters looked up at Igor. In the blink of an eye, Igor gained access to the entire system, engines, ventilation, and the biosphere. He saw how thousands of colonists were in a state of hibernation. In a second he read the dossier of each. Having learned his past life, the navigation system was already building a route, and in the interior of the Ark, in the workshops, the process of creating gates that they would leave on their way was already gradually starting. Igor felt his brain accelerating, as if it was swelling, growing in size. Tons of information rushed through him, instantly processing and producing the desired result. And all this was done even without Igor's direct participation, as if the brain and his consciousness existed separately. The processor is connected to all systems of the bearing arc. The adapters were the only ones in the control center. A panel shining with multicolored lights, the captain's chair in the center, and Igor's sphere standing on a pedestal next to it. Where's the captain? Igor shifted the cameras to an empty chair. There is no need for it. The captain will be brought out of hibernation when there are a couple of weeks left before the target. And who will manage the Ark? The adapts looked at each other in amazement. You, of course, or rather... Here something like a dismissive smile appeared on the face of one of them. A bioprocess consisting of your brain. Igor did not like the insolent man's tone, but decided not to pay attention to him. Aren't pilots going to be involved in controlling the spaceship from time to time? No, it's all you, well, and our help if necessary. The journey to Elbrus will take 174 years, and you will be awake all this time? Igor thought this was stupid, even though there are about 50 adapts on board, and they are of different genders. This time is quite enough for us. The complacency of the adaptation on his face went beyond any mark. This is half of our life. What? I didn't realize that you could live so long. It's no joke, almost 400 years. The second adaptation shrugged off Igor's violent reaction a little. We are the second generation, born in a natural way, so to speak. So scientists found out such an interesting feature about us when they noticed how slowly we were aging in relation to humans. But you're people too. Just like me to some extent, Igor said encouragingly, more to himself than to the two of them. The first adaptation, barely able to restrain a grin, squeezed out, Well. Attention, preparations for departure. Take seats. It's time to go, Igor thought. Which means he needs to. Suddenly, he caught himself doing everything quickly and deftly, the commands given to the Ark systems flying out of the depths of his consciousness. He didn't have time to really figure out what was going on, but he was already launching a command, activating the mechanisms. MS-4478 was very close, although it was about a month away. The yellow dot was gradually gaining size. Bering stepped over the gravitational field of the star, received additional acceleration. It began to attract the ship to itself, as if it opened its arms for a friendly greeting. First of all, according to the protocols, Igor woke up the adapts, noting with satisfaction that if he had not wanted to do so, they would have remained in a state of hibernation. This means that he is able to influence something, and the realization of this fact has given him confidence in his abilities. The adapts are awakened for the reason that they are the ones who are required to prepare the Ark for sending people to the planet Elbrus. How did Turul sleep? Igor watched as the adaptation gradually came to its senses. We don't have dreams. Turul slowly warmed up, standing naked in front of the capsule, stretching his arms up and bending to the sides. Why not? Igor was amazed. This does not happen. Turul shrugged his shoulders. I know what dreams are, people have talked about it, but when we sleep, our brain sinks into rest. We close our eyes, it's dark, and then we just open them. Poor guy. Igor's voice sounded genuinely sympathetic. Even I have dreams. This is not surprising for a human. How do you like space? Great. Igor talked excitedly about what he saw for several hours. Turul proved to be a grateful listener. A week later, the star of the MS-4478 system transformed, acquiring the features of the sun. Now a man with a strong build and a stern face was sitting next to Igor in the captain's seat. His gray eyes stared only ahead, towards the growing star day by day. Captain Maximilian was distinguished by a single-minded character and a very tough, truly commanding disposition. He demanded strict execution of the protocols and an immediate report on them. Igor didn't get along with him right away. The captain referred to him as a processor or a system, thereby emphasizing that he considered him no other way than as part of the Ark's mechanism. One of the inanimate parts. What Igor didn't like. Attempts to clarify the situation have led to nothing. Maximilian made it clear what the guy's place was. You're part of the control system, with no more personality than that, he said. On the very first day he found himself in the control center after coming out of hibernation. You are a processor that provides high-performance systems based on a biological platform. I'm a human being, Igor replied with restraint. More than 170 years spent in space have taught me calmness and self-control. The brain is all that's left of your body, in fact you're dead. The captain had neither the tact nor the understanding that he was communicating with someone who controlled all the systems of the Ark, because he considered himself the only one in charge on board. The principle of your work was explained to me. And who is it? Professor von Braun. He personally taught his theory and taught us. Your brain. Captain, Turul intervened inopportunely, or quite possibly in time. I recommend starting to bring the crew out of hibernation. Maximilian stroked his perfectly shaven chin and thought about something. It's not worth it all. He made decisions. We'll wake up the rest upon arrival directly on the planet itself. Bring the pilots out of hibernation. There is. Within a few hours, all the pilots available among the colonists were put on their feet. Igor knew some of them, or rather he saw them when he was still a cadet at the academy. But now friendly attempts to talk to them ran into an impenetrable wall of misunderstanding. Former cadets answered his questions in monosyllables, or simply ignored things that were not relevant to their work. Like the captain of the Bering, they perceived him as part of the Ark's machine mind. The last gate was released into space, just at the entrance to the MS-4478 star system. The whole way, the system did not forget to leave a gate behind. Their production was constantly in full swing. The resources for their creation were initially on board the Ark, although some scientists suggested not doing this, but using asteroids or planets encountered along the way as necessary extraction. This proposal was rejected immediately, because then the ship would have to stop and then pick up speed again, which would naturally lead to a large waste of fuel. The discarded gates were completed by robots directly in space, while they remained a technical team to support their operability. After entering the star system, Igor turned off the main engine and turned on the brakes. For a couple of days, the Ark continued to move by inertia, during which time the crew managed to explore the star system that would soon become their home. There are only 5 planets, and only one belonging to the terrestrial planets. The rest of the planets are giants with a stone base. Surprisingly, there were no gas planets like Jupiter, and the asteroid fields observed on Mars were completely absent. Finally, the Bering landed in the orbit of Elbrus. No matter who gave the planet such a name, from now on its name is Elbrus in the registry, and the star that heats it will be called the Sun by default. Everyone gathered around the portholes, offering a stunning view of the new world. Elbrus is a world of rare plains and towering mountains, many seas and not a single ocean. The plains were covered with a smooth green carpet, cut through by thin lines of rivers originating from the mountains, the peaks of which shone with the immaculate whiteness of the purest snow. According to the protocol, Igor sent drones to investigate, and the first results brought inspiration to the team anxiously awaiting a response. The atmosphere is breathable, as is pressure, as is water. Unless gravity is a little stronger than on Earth. The animal world is poorly represented. The probe was able to detect only a couple of animals, without being able to properly study them. But it doesn't matter. On the Ark, people brought with them their usual flora, which will soon begin to explore Elbrus, just like them. Igor, like everyone else, succumbed to the excitement of being the first to find himself in a new world. The drones became his eyes and ears, and he eagerly surveyed an unfamiliar and at the same time Earth-like world. Gurgling streams, the sound of the wind, the thunderclap. He missed all that. I longed to take a deep breath of fresh air, to feel the rays of the sun on my face. He is deprived of all this forever. The sensations that previously gave him a feeling of bliss are no longer available. Therefore, he focused on emotions. They gave new colors to life. I'm on another planet, Igor rejoiced, continuing to drive the drone over the surface of the water, leaving a trail running in all directions from the oscillation of the waves. Yes, he was the first one on the Bering to set foot on the surface of Elbrus. This world was significantly different from outer space. In addition to colors, there were sounds. No matter how beautiful the universe is, it is silent. Even when Igor detected a supernova outbreak, it took place in absolute silence. Immediately the world is full of sounds that Igor has missed. When Maximilian received the final analysis of the data a couple of days later, the first stage of colonization began. A sector separated from the Ark. The systems transferred control to the adapters, who stared intently at the monitors and began its descent to the surface of the planet. I'm entering the atmosphere. The pilot's strangled voice was heard. The first sector landed safely on Elbrus. Igor noticed how the captain, sitting motionless in his chair, which made him resemble a statue of a very bad sculptor, passed his palm over his forehead. The nervous tension was so obvious that it seemed palpable. Then the second sector detached itself from the main body of the Ark and also headed down. The colonization plan is as simple as possible. Sectors were attached to the body of the main ship, which at first became home during the exploration of the planet. They housed living quarters, mini power plants, as well as production workshops and the necessary equipment for construction. Resources for further development were supposed to be extracted on the spot. While Maximilian and the crew were busy descending to the planet, Igor, according to the protocols, continued to study it, rejoicing at this opportunity. So the drones, biting into the rocks, discovered an unknown mineral, which would undoubtedly have taken Igor's breath away from the discovery of a new element. As it was, he put it in his diary, taking a sample with him along the way. It took 2 months to detach all the sectors from the main body of the bearing. Now it could no longer be called an ark. All that remained of the once gigantic hulk was the head compartment, which housed the control center, and a several-kilometer-long tail, to which sectors had previously been attached. Maximilian took the last one, leaving the spaceship without apparent regret. The construction of the gates had been completed by that time, and it was time for the bearing to return home. The ship rounded the planet, turned towards the gate, and reached the border of the star system in 2 days at minimal acceleration. The gate looked like a foreign body in the darkness of space. The radiance of the gate was noticeably different from the stars. They shimmered with a rainbow, and a radiance formed around them, an aura that seemed to feel the space of the universe around them with thin rays. In addition, there is a constant flickering, pulses of accumulated energy bubbling inside them. All of this immediately betrayed their unnaturalness in the orderly chaos of the universe. The energy that fueled the gate was the light of the stars. It accumulated in them, greedily absorbed from the starry space. Igor had heard so much about the gates as a cadet that now he couldn't wait to see them firsthand, to experience them for himself. "Are you going to enter a state of hibernation?" I asked the adapts a question. "That won't be necessary," Turil answered for everyone. "It won't take long to get back." Igor knew this himself, but still did not fully believe it. "Okay. Prepare to enter the gate." He needs to gain maximum acceleration before diving into them. Movement in the gate is possible only at sublight speed, if it is at least 10% lower, as claimed. This will lead to a distortion of space for those on board, and therefore to sad consequences. The photon engines confidently gained power. The brain began to work at full capacity. Igor fully felt this. Now he must not make a mistake with the course. It was not enough to crash into the gate, setting off a grandiose fireworks display, simultaneously cutting off Elbrus from communication with the Earth for a couple of 100 years. The movement of the bearing synchronized with the pulsation frequency in the gate, and their systems quickly managed to find the algorithm they needed to move. With every passing second, the gates were getting closer. The magic of the light in them was getting brighter. Here they are, very close. Igor did not have time to realize how he found himself inside the warm, enveloping light. A moment later, the ship moved through outer space as if nothing had happened. Nothing seemed to have changed. The same stars, the same galaxies, the same darkness. But this impression is deceptive. Yes, as it seemed, the stars and galaxies were motionless in place, as before. But it turned out that they were too far away for human perception. The stars that were nearby were unusually fast, flashing through the porthole, approaching and dissolving into outer space. A blue glow formed around the spaceship, apparently the same aura that the scientist had described at the lecture at the academy. At the same time, the speed still did not exceed sublight. It took Bering a month and a half to return to Earth, compared to more than 170 years spent on the road to Elbrus.